Attractive teachers of Reddit. Did you know which students had a crush on you? And what is the strangest or most inappropriate thing you overheard said about you? I did my student teaching with seniors and I was like 21. A year or two later one of them found me on Twitter and asked me on a date because he was in the army and not a little butt kid anymore. I politely declined. Students like to tell on each other. It usually goes like this. Mister, all of the girls were talking about you in the locker room. Nope. Don't wanna hear it. So and so said you're hot and so said. And then I keep saying nope as I walk away. I had a student hand me a note from a secret admirer in her own handwriting. And there's been things written about me in desks. Mostly about my eyes and voice. Now kids just say you're looking like a snack. Plot twist. No romantic innuendo. Just straight up cannibalistic desires. I used to have a chili pepper on ratemyprofessor.com. That's how I knew. They have since taken it down on the site. I kinda wish it was still there. My husband also had a chili pepper. I did not. Womp womp. A student stole me a bottle of vodka and left it on my desk with a love heart carved around it. So romantic. I'm not attractive, but I did find out a third grader had a crush on me because she straight up told me. I had suspected it because she would give me a hug basically every time she saw me and say things like Mr. Leaflet is so funny, cool, and handsome. She did go through a phase where she randomly hated me and refused to talk to me most of the time. But then after a couple weeks of that she randomly gave me a hug one morning and said I like you again. That kid was a little boy crazy. When I taught in Korea, my middle school boys called me hot teacher to my face. Every day, I'm blonde and green-eyed and the kids found it fascinating. Most inappropriate was a kid who raised his hand in the middle of the lesson to ask if all of my hair was the same color. Basically asking if the carpet matched the drapes. The creepiest though was a kid who used to collect my hair and keep it in his notebook. Better than that is my friend who is an elementary school teacher and had multiple kids lick her. She's black and they wanted to see what she tasted like. What the very frick? When I was just starting, had one of the girls, I was only 4 years older, ask me to feel her abs as she pulled up her shirt. Didn't know what to do, so I just walked out of the room. Not exactly textbook procedure on how to handle it, but my brain short-circuited for a second. Removing yourself from the situation is probably the best course of action. Had an art teacher pretend he's gay in his previous school because a lot of the female students were crushing on him hard. He did realize that he also had male admirers and him declaring he's gay just increased his admirers. Girls love him. I'm gay. Sorry girls. Guys love him. Damn it. I'm agamous. A girl said to her friends, Mr. Teacher has a donk. It was kinda quiet, but I heard it. I turned around and gave her a WTF look. She got super embarrassed. I felt weird. My husband is the attractive teacher at school. We work at the same school together. I constantly overhear groups of girls saying Mr. Katagato is so hot, and when we got engaged I swear several of my female students changed their whole attitude toward me in such a negative way. The students didn't know we were officially a thing until we got engaged. But now that we have a baby, I have heard kids make comment about us making love. I always just make super prolonged eye contact with them when they see that. I've heard them say something and they turn into blushing piles of embarrassed mush. I don't think I'm attractive, but I heard some students commenting about my butt a couple times. Besides that, last semester I was lecturing classical mechanics. I could swear that the boy who always sits in front of my desk stared at my tea every time I was writing something. About 3 weeks ago, I'm not his teacher anymore. He knocked the door of my lab looking for me. He then asked if I would go on a date with him. I'm a 23-year physicist. I mean, a lot of guys find intelligence very attractive. That's all I'm saying. I teach 6-8-year-olds, so this is a very SFW story. One of my students, who was a boy, would always stare at my face, then squeeze my cheeks and lay his face on my arm because I was cute. He also showers me with compliments, and whenever I have makeup on he would say I look like a celebrity. Of course at that age, they do not have the concept of crush yet, but still, The thought that a kid finds me good looking is still a confidence boost because at least someone finds me cute, hahaha. I feel like if a little kid says you're pretty, that's such a big compliment, because kids usually aren't afraid to call you ugly, lol. Had a student, not underage, ask me out. I was teaching a college class and he asked me to a ball. I told him I planned to take my fiancée. He begged me to dump plans with my fiancée, lol. In the end he walked away disappointed. Got to give him points for boldness, I guess. A female teacher of mine was told by a student, during an exam, to sit down, because if he sees her body his blood is rushing into other directions, instead of his head. Guy musta had huge balls, literally and metaphorically. Not a teacher but the weird girl at school said she fell in love with Mr. What's name and wanted to cut off his dong and wear it as a necklace. I didn't know whether she wanted to frick him or kill him. Also it was a Catholic school. Crap was weird anyway. Fell in love with Mr. What's name and wanted to cut off his dong. This is basically normal behavior for female spiders and men predatory insects. I find your school's lack of interspecies awareness tolerance disturbing. I know of 2 students who had crushes on me when I did my student teaching. Just avoid the situations. Whenever we talked, I made sure to place myself in clear view of the door and our individual conversations were always with a desk between us. I was a big on making sure every student had a proper handshake and eye contact as a life skill. So that kept hugging out of my classroom. At my school the students knew which teachers had a crush on students. On the first day of class a student took a photo of me and uploaded it to Instagram with the caption "fresh meat." English teacher here. Girls on puberty just seem to want to have a crush on any guy that's somewhat close to them and unreachable for an actual relationship, and a teacher fits it perfectly. Teenager girls keep trying to approach physically and use any excuse to hug me, and if I don't set clear limits they try to touch me. Nothing explicit or really bizarre ever happened to me, but it really feels weird sometimes. Also a male English teacher. The hugging thing is the worst. I just say no. If a student genuinely wants a hug and isn't being creepy. Christian side hug. I overheard one student remark to another that I had nice I dress conservatively at work, but I guess just being able to see the silhouette of breasts is enough for 9th grade boys. Crap, in 9th grade you probably could have flashed a little ankle and I'd have been as hard as a diamond in an ice storm. There is a nonverbal very large severely autistic young man at my school who goes into a rage and attacks other teachers and students and flips tables and desks if I am not where I am supposed to be when he wants me to be. I think maybe I remind him of someone else. I am a middle-aged woman with kids older than he is. He badly injured a teacher last week when I had a beating and was not at lunch. He stares at me from across the cafeteria or gym and looks away smiling every time I look over. I am not his teacher and he doesn't react this way to anyone else at the school. This sounds terrifying. On the farewell day, a student told me that if I have daughter he wishes to marry her. Wait, this is some next level crap. Marrying somebody's daughter just to get closer to them is an amount of dedication I have not witnessed in any of my students before. When I was around 25 I used to substitute, and it was mainly at a pretty affluent high school. There were girls who would come by my room between classes just to hang around and talk. Then there was the girl who wanted me to read her poetry. The funniest was the drama class I subbed for where they didn't even try to be subtle. It was a very loosey-goosey class anyway. In the school's theater, there were 3 girls who crowded around me the whole class and were asking for my phone number and my address because they wanted to come hang out. I told them we couldn't. One day I was at the mall with a buddy of mine, and a group of high school girls saw me and came running up to me, kinda hanging on and around me and talking. My friends shot me a look. I mouthed a silent I swear I haven't touched them. I met a guy around that time. He was kind of a jerk, who was bragging about secretly dating a high school girl from that school. He was mid to late 20s. When he found out I subbed there, he said, "Oh, you're the substitute with the goatee they are always talking about. You're kind of a legend with those girls. You should hook up with some." Left double quotation mark. I soon decided to stop substituting. Methinks jerk guy needed a reporting. I had a student with a crush on me. I was in my late 20s teaching seniors in high school. He constantly emailed me with questions about college applications and stuff. but sometimes his friends would hack his account and send me emails from his account saying how much he loved me. I responded and said I cared about him but only as a student. After he graduated high school he would email me when he was drunk saying he loved me, then he would follow up the next morning saying he never meant to send that. I didn't really respond to those. When he graduated college he did try to ask me out for ales and I turned him down again politely. Yeah, those hacking friends. I have a student who won't leave me alone. He's in my room every chance he gets, even so far as getting to school an hour and a half early to wait outside of my classroom. While I'm in meetings in the morning he's pacing outside the room waiting for the meeting to end. When I have midday meetings he's waiting at my classroom begging me to skip them or bring him with me. I have no privacy. This is my second year and I decided to be casually out with my students, and I was hoping the fact that I'm a lesbian would shut him down at least a little. But either he hasn't noticed or he won't accept it. I wonder if he has a bad home life with attachment issues. From what you're saying, it could either be a crush or some kind of attachment to you as a caring authority figure. Back when I was student teaching I had a male student straight up yell at me in the hall, "I think you're hot." I was in my early 20s and looked younger than that and not at all confident as a teacher yet, so I was literally speechless. Now I would have enough guts to tell them that's inappropriate, but back then I literally just stood there awkwardly with a "I wish this wasn't happening" look on my face. I'm not particularly attractive, but I am a young female teacher, and my students are teenagers. I have had students make really inappropriate comments before. 2 of my students got in trouble in another class because another teacher heard them having a discussion about my boobs. Hearing that grossed me out and made me want to dress even more modestly than I already do. Kids are weird. I've had students beg each other to walk up to me and say my haircut looks hot. I'm a male teacher and these are male students. When I was on placement I was told to stay away and keep my distance from a student because he was caught masturbating in the previous week. I laughed out considering the kid was in year 6. I'm a student and was in my last big teaching session before my finals. After just 1 week of teaching I landed on an Instagram site where pupils secretly post things they want to confess about them or their teachers. They called me the hottest teacher ever and published my name, surname and relationship status. That felt pretty strange. One girl said, in my case she would have not a single problem of me being diddler. I only taught for 2 years, but that stuff happened pretty regularly. It's mostly innocent little crush stuff that none of them would even want to act upon. However, one time a rather trashy, but definitely not unattractive girl came straight up to me at lunch, looked me right in the eyes, bit her lower lip, then said, "I'ma holler at you at the end of the year." Then she just walked off. Oh, I also had a male student hug me goodbye at the end of the year, and I could totally feel his super hard dong against my thigh, but I didn't say anything. Not a teacher, but in 8th grade I had a young, pretty, super sweet, like, angelic line ice teacher. Well, my friend and I really despised this douchebag kid in our class, and one day we overheard him saying how he always checks out our teacher and tries to look down her shirt. So my dumbass self and my friend decided to be vigilantes and tell our teacher he said this. I have never seen someone's face turn so red before in my life. I still cringe when I think about it. Why did we need to tell her? That poor woman. Some things are better left unsaid, clearly. Male teacher here. I've had a number of students who I've found out had crushes on me. They're usually the ones who find any reason possible to be around you, but on top of that I've had some more obvious signs. One girl ran into class and jumped into my lap while I sat behind my desk and nestled down a bit. I'm not allowed to touch students, so I had to get 2 other students to remove her. Another girl would make the ahegeo face at me every day for about a week and asked if I like it. I had no idea what it meant at the time, so I asked and she made a masturbation gesture with her hand. Another girl wore a ring around school and told people she were married. Those were the worst, but there are usually a handful of them every year. I make it a point to look unkempt now as it's super dangerous getting into these situations. I also try to have the students move to another class if possible. Most people think I should be flattered by it, but all I can think about is losing my job and being labeled a child pervert. I'm not allowed to touch students, so I had to get 2 other students to remove her. Lol, it's not my fault this is happening. 5 more minutes of this and I'm gonna be mad. In my first year of teaching, I taught in a rural high school. Almost everyone worked on a farm. These are 2 statements from the same student. After explaining to her class all the different kinds of food I could cook, I was 23 at the time. A student said, "How come you aren't married then?" This one was just randomly Ms. You are way too pretty to not have a boyfriend. The kid was literally working on an assignment and just blurted this out. My senior year in high school, we got a new freshman English teacher at my small Catholic high school. She was fresh out of college, so she wasn't more than 4 or 5 years older, that is at that point. She was smoking hot. Second semester, all the senior boys wanted to take freshman English as an elective. Not a teacher but had a class with a very attractive teacher, Miss Frizzle, early 20s, fresh out of college. Actually had a few of them during high school since the state's main teaching college was just a town over. But Frizzle's was the only class where there was a problem. I had Frizzle's class just before lunch, 4th or 5th period, with a guy named Chet. Chet liked to brag about all the women he got and all the steroids he took and how tough he was. Stereotypical prick jock things you'd find on a CW show set in a high school. Chet decided he had to have Miss Frizzle, which apparently meant he was going to harass her whenever he got a chance in class. This included talking about her butt, loud enough for everyone to hear, when she dropped the marker she was using and had to pick it up. If there wasn't an opportunity like that, he would just loudly whisper how he wanted to throw her on her desk and have his way with her. Bulls like that. If anyone spoke up in class, it just seemed to encourage him. He legitimately seemed proud of what he was doing even though it was clearly having a very negative effect on Miss Frizzle. I don't know if Miss Frizzle ever did, but I know a number of students complained to administration about it. They never did anything about it. Rumor was since Chet was an important wrestler for the school, they didn't want to jeopardize a shot at the state championship or some such thing. I honestly believe that was the case. The principal and his vice principals were all kind of dipshoots. Anyway, Chet's harassment goes on into the 2nd month of school. One day during class, Derek, one of the quieter and larger kids, comes in last to the class. He walked up to the girl who normally sat between him and Chet and asked her to move. The whole class is confused, but the girl moved over for Derek. Miss Frizzle, probably just not wanting to interrupt class any further, just goes on with the lesson. I don't remember what Chet said, but I remember Miss Frizzle's back was to the class so she could write something on the board. There was a loud smack, something hard hitting a desk. She turned around to see Chet's desk bloody, but not nearly as bad as his nose. Despite all of the desks sitting in a U shape, most students said they saw nothing, and those who did backed Derek. Chet did it to himself. Derek volunteered to help Chet to the nurse. Chet walking out of the door was the last I saw of him in that class. He must have had his whole schedule rearranged, because he showed in my PE class a week or so later. Made that class a bit of a pain, but Miss Frizzle's class from that point on was definitely a highlight of high school for me. I really hope she's still teaching, because she managed to make the subject matter interesting and genuinely seemed to have a passion for it when she wasn't being harassed. Derek is a goddamn hero. I taught at an adult school for medical assistants and heard a girl tell her friend she'd violate me if she got me in a dark room alone. I am not an attractive teacher, but I still had a student write a poem about me being luminous. In grade 4 I asked my teacher if she was the pink Power Ranger. To be fair, she did look a lot like her. Don't consider myself particularly attractive, but as a middle-aged male teacher, once had an 8th grade girl look me in the eye and quickly lean in to lick my face, then stepped back and smiled while cocking her head to the side. Yikes. I'm a male teacher and there's one girl who either has daddy issues, I know from her oversharing she has a stepdad, or has a crush on me. She might just be needy but she is always calling me over to ask for help when she clearly figures it out on her own or one of her also smart friends could help. She's also always telling me all the smallest details of her life, much more so than my other students. Like I said, she might just be needy but I don't know. To me, this sounds like a smart, needy girl with daddy issues that has a crush on you. All of your suspicions are true. Obligatory not a teacher but I had a massive crush on one of my high school teachers, and I'm sure he knew. I was always finding excuses to hang around his classroom and talk to him. I wasn't the only one either. There were a handful of girls and a couple guys who would all spend our spare time in his vicinity. Looking back now, it was so obvious and weird that I did it, but he was my first serious crush and I had zero chill. I visited every now and then when I'd go home from college, and we're friends on Facebook still. And he's also still super handsome and a genuinely nice dude. Male, my first job out of college was teaching at an all-girls high school. I am definitely not attractive, average on my best days, but given that I was the only young male teacher, there were a number of students who obviously had a crush on me. I never heard anything strange or inappropriate said about me, but sometimes they did ask a lot of really personal questions that crossed the line. I had a kindergarten student walk straight up to me, motorboat my breasts, then got on the school bus. Not a word was spoken. You have been visited by the fashion doggo. Comment your envy strengthens me so you always look beautiful. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.